Claymore House Murders. Location: Claymore, Oregon, USA. Date of incident: October 14, 2017. Case status: closed. Conviction secured May 2019. Background: the town of Claymore, Oregon, sits just outside the Cascade foothills. With a population of just over 6,000, violent crime is rare. The last recorded homicide in the county had occurred in 2003. Residents described the town as quiet, slow, and stubbornly old-fashioned. At the northern edge of Claymore sat the Barrett property, a 1920s farmhouse surrounded by 18 acres of dense Douglas fir forest. It was owned by Patrick Barrett, 42, a carpenter, and his wife, Laura Barrett, 38, a substitute teacher. They lived there with their 2 children, ages 8 and 10. Discovery of the crime: at 7:18 a.m. on October 15, 2017, Claymore police received a 911 call from Evan Doyle, a local farmer who said he had seen something wrong at the Barrett property while driving past. Officers arrived at 7:36 a.m. and found the front door ajar, the glass pane in the storm door cracked from the inside. Inside, officers noted the following: the living room showed signs of a violent struggle. A coffee table had been overturned, and there was a large pool of blood near the fireplace hearth. The air carried a strong metallic odor mixed with the faint scent of wood smoke. The Barrett family's golden retriever was found hiding under the kitchen table, trembling and uninjured. Crime scene findings: victims: Laura Barrett, found in the kitchen doorway, lying face up, with a deep incised wound across the throat measuring approximately 7.2 inches in length and penetrating to the vertebrae. Blood spatter patterns indicated the injury was inflicted while she was standing and facing her attacker. Patrick Barrett, found in the upstairs hallway, prone, with multiple blunt force trauma injuries to the head. The coroner's report identified at least 12 impacts from a cylindrical object approximately 1.5 inches in diameter. The back of the skull was partially collapsed. Children, both located in their shared bedroom, curled together under the covers. Each had sustained a single penetrating stab wound to the chest, angled upward toward the heart. The wounds were precise, suggesting they were inflicted while the victims were asleep. Other notable details: a claw hammer with a wooden handle, heavily coated in blood and tissue matter, was found partially hidden under a throw blanket in the upstairs hallway. A kitchen carving knife was recovered from the sink, with latent fingerprints later matched to the perpetrator. Footprints, men's size 11 work boots, were found in drying blood near the front door, leading away toward the back of the property. Forensic evidence: DNA, mixed DNA profiles from both the hammer and the knife matched Derek Collier, 29, a former employee of Patrick Barrett. Collier had done seasonal construction work on the property 2 years prior. Blood pattern analysis indicated Laura was attacked first, followed by Patrick, and finally the children, consistent with an escalating attack rather than simultaneous assaults. Entry, exit, no signs of forced entry. Investigators later determined Collier had been allowed inside by Patrick earlier in the evening under the pretense of discussing a potential job. Timeline reconstruction: October 14, 2017, 6:45 p.m. A neighbor sees Patrick Barrett and Collier talking on the front porch. 7:10 p.m. A loud argument is overheard by the same neighbor, followed by a door slamming. 7:14 p.m. to 7:25 p.m. estimated window in which the murders occurred, based on autopsy lividity patterns and stomach contents. 7:40 p.m. Collier is spotted on the Claymore service road walking quickly toward the highway. Motive: interviews with friends and colleagues revealed that Collier believed Patrick Barrett owed him $4,200 for a construction project. Records indicated Barrett had withheld payment due to complaints about workmanship, leading to a heated dispute in the months prior. Collier had also been evicted from his rented trailer 2 weeks before the murders. Arrest and conviction: Collier was arrested on October 20, 2017, after forensic lab results linked his DNA to the murder weapons. During interrogation, he initially denied involvement but later admitted to losing control during an argument with Patrick. However, he maintained the killings of the children were not planned, claiming he didn't want them to live with what they'd seen. In May 2019, a jury convicted Collier on 4 counts of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Aftermath: the Barrett property remained vacant for 3 years before being purchased at auction. Locals say the new owners keep the blinds drawn at night. Several neighbors have since installed security cameras, a first for the quiet Oregon town. The West Hollow Disappearance. Location, West Hollow, Pennsylvania, USA. Date of incident, December 2, 2014. Case status, closed. Remains recovered, conviction secured October 2018. Background, West Hollow, Pennsylvania, is a rural township nestled in the Allegheny Plateau. Its population hovers around 2,000, most residents working in agriculture or commuting to nearby Erie. Winters are harsh, and December often sees heavy snowfall and early nightfall. Michelle Harrow, 31, was a veterinary technician living in a small rental cabin at the edge of state game lands. She was described by friends as practical, private, and fiercely independent. Michelle had been dating Aaron Pike, 34, a mechanic with a prior arrest for aggravated assault in 2007. Neighbors later told police the relationship had been on again, off again, with frequent loud arguments. The disappearance. On December 3, 2014, Michelle's employer reported her missing when she failed to show up for work for 2 consecutive days. Deputies performed a welfare check that evening. Findings at the cabin: front door was locked. A key was in the deadbolt on the inside. Michelle's cell phone was found on the kitchen counter, powered off. The bed was unmade, with a damp patch on the mattress and faint reddish-brown staining beneath. Outside, tire impressions were visible in the fresh snow leading away from the cabin toward a private logging road. Investigation. Michelle's last confirmed sighting was 9:47 p.m. on December 2nd, when a neighbor saw her standing on the porch in pajama pants and a sweatshirt, speaking to a man in a dark parka. The neighbor assumed it was Pike, though the man's hood obscured his face. Cell tower data showed Michelle's phone went offline at 10:12 p.m. Pike's phone, which he claimed had been with him at his home, pinged off the same tower as Michelle's at 10:06 p.m., contradicting his alibi. Key evidence. Mattress stain analysis. Luminol testing revealed a large area saturated with blood between the sheets and mattress pad. Subsequent DNA testing confirmed it was Michelle's. The blood volume was consistent with a fatal wound. Boot prints. Size 12 boot prints with a worn left heel were found in the snow between the porch and driveway. Prints matched Pike's work boots seized during a search warrant. Truck bed swabs. Trace testing revealed human blood in the grooves of Pike's pickup truck bedliner, later matched to Michelle via mitochondrial DNA. Recovered remains. On March 14, 2015, snowmelt revealed partial skeletal remains in a drainage culvert off County Route 218, approximately 7 miles from Michelle's cabin. Scavenger activity had scattered bones over a 20-foot area. Forensic anthropology identified perimortem trauma to the left parietal bone, likely from a single, forceful blow with a blunt object. Timeline reconstruction. December 2, 2014, 8:50 p.m. Michelle texts a friend saying Pike just showed up, and she will call in a bit. 9:47 p.m. Neighbor sees Michelle talking to unidentified man on porch. 10:06 p.m. Pike's phone pings near Michelle's cabin. 10:12 p.m. Michelle's phone goes offline. 10:30 to 11:15 p.m. Heavy snowfall begins. No further usable tire or foot impressions found after this point. Motive. Witnesses testified to a recent argument over Michelle ending the relationship permanently and asking Pike to return her house key. Prosecutors argued that Pike arrived unannounced to confront her. The argument turned physical, and he struck her with a heavy object, possibly a tire iron, before removing her body in his truck. Conviction. On October 18, 2018, after a 12-day trial, Pike was convicted of second-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. He was sentenced to 45 years in state prison. Aftermath. Michelle's remains were cremated and buried alongside her parents. The cabin remains vacant, owned by the same landlord, and locals say it has since become a landmark for where it happened. State game wardens still patrol the culvert area every spring in case more remains are revealed by thaw and erosion. The Ashford Park Strangler. Location: Ashford Park, Illinois, USA. Primary incident date: August 29, 2001. Case status: closed. Cold case solved April 2020. Background: Ashford Park is a mid-sized industrial city along the Illinois River, population just under 60,000 at the turn of the millennium. Its Central Park, a 200-acre green space with wooded trails, a lake, and picnic areas, was considered a safe family location, though it had no active nighttime security in 2001. Victim: Janelle Cruz, 27, an elementary school art teacher. Known for her punctuality and close-knit circle of friends, she lived alone in a second-floor apartment downtown. On the evening of August 29, 2001, Janelle told a friend she planned to go for a run in Ashford Park after work before heading home. She never returned. Discovery. At 6:42 a.m. on August 30th, a groundskeeper found her body partially concealed under a stand of sumac bushes, 30 feet from the jogging trail. Observed at the scene, clothing in disarray, running shoes removed and placed neatly side by side about 10 feet from the body. A blue nylon cord tied tightly around the neck, double knotted at the back. Faint contusions on both wrists, suggesting restraint. An overturned water bottle about 5 feet away, with fresh condensation still visible on the exterior, indicating it had not sat out all night. Initial investigation, 2001 to 2003, cause of death, strangulation by ligature. No defensive wounds found, suggesting the victim was attacked from behind. Evidence collected, latent fingerprints on the water bottle, partial, small flecks of blue paint under the victim's fingernails, and a cigarette butt located near the shoes. Suspects, Daniel Rourke, Janelle's ex-boyfriend, a park maintenance worker at the time. Known for temper issues, alibied by his brother, Harold Keyes, registered sex offender seen in the park that night by 2 witnesses. Polygraph deemed inconclusive. Unknown jogger. Several witnesses recalled a tall man in a grey hoodie jogging the same trail as Janelle around sunset. Leads slowed by 2003. The cigarette butt DNA excluded Rourke and Keyes. Blue paint flecks were never matched to any specific source. Case goes cold. For nearly 2 decades, the case sat in the Ashford PD's unsolved files. Evidence remained in storage, including the nylon cord, the paint flecks, and the partial fingerprints from the water bottle. Breakthrough 2019. In early 2019, the Illinois State Police Cold Case Unit began systematically testing stored evidence using modern techniques. Key developments: touch DNA recovery. Skin cell DNA was recovered from the nylon cord knots using MVAC wet vacuum technology. Genealogical database match. DNA pointed to a distant cousin in Missouri, narrowing the suspect pool to a family tree with 3 living male relatives. Blue paint analysis. New spectroscopy testing identified the flecks as a specific industrial epoxy used in commercial boating applications. Final investigation. Detectives learned that one of the DNA-linked relatives, Gregory Vance, 54, had worked in 2001 as a boat repairman at the Ashford Marina, just 2 miles from the park. Surveillance in February 2020 produced a discarded coffee cup from Vance, which returned a direct DNA match to the nylon cord evidence. Vance's known shoe size, 13, also aligned with earlier uncast impressions found faintly in soil near the body. Motive and confession. During interrogation, Vance initially denied knowing Janelle, but later admitted to watching her run on several evenings. He claimed the killing was impulsive, triggered when he recognized her as someone who had laughed at him at a bar months earlier. The shoes being neatly placed was explained as habit. He disliked damaging footwear and removed them before dragging the body. Conviction. In April 2020, Vance pleaded guilty to first-degree murder to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Aftermath. The Ashford Park Strangler case had been one of the city's most notorious unsolved murders. The park installed lighting along major trails and added evening patrols. The blue epoxy paint detail, overlooked for years, became a training example in Illinois State Police forensic seminars as a case study in how minute trace evidence can eventually lead to a conviction. The Whitlow Motel Incident. Location: Whitlow, New Mexico, USA. Date of incident: April 19, 2006. Case status: closed. Conviction secured December 2008. Background: Whitlow is a small desert town along Interstate 40, with a population of fewer than 1,500. It serves mostly as a fuel and lodging stop for truckers. The Sundown Motor Lodge, a 17-room roadside motel built in the 1960s, catered largely to transient guests. Victim: Harold Denton, 56, a traveling refrigeration repair contractor from Flagstaff, Arizona. Known to stay in budget motels on long-haul trips. Discovery: at 8:12 a.m. on April 20th, a housekeeper found room 8's door ajar with the chain lock engaged. Denton was lying face down on the carpet, partially clothed, with extensive head trauma. Scene observations: blunt force injuries consistent with repeated strikes from a flat, heavy object. Blood spatter on the television stand and lower wall, consistent with low-velocity impact. Wallet missing. Room key discarded on the bathroom sink. Shoe impressions in a fine dust layer near the bathroom door. Size 9 work boots with a distinctive zigzag sole. Investigation. Motel security cameras showed Denton entering room 8 at 9:34 p.m. on April 19th. At 10:17 p.m., a man wearing a denim jacket and baseball cap was seen knocking on the door. He entered and remained for 18 minutes. The exit footage showed him carrying a dark duffel bag. Evidence collected, latent fingerprints from the chain lock, matched later to Rafael Morano, 29, a drifter with prior burglary convictions. Fibers from the carpet embedded in the grooves of a recovered tire iron, found discarded behind a gas station dumpster 0.7 miles from the motel. A pawn ticket in Albuquerque dated April 21, bearing Morano's name, for Denton's stolen laptop. Motive and conviction. Morano claimed the visit was for a business deal, involving tools, but he admitted to striking Denton after an argument got heated. Forensics matched Denton's blood to the tire iron. In December 2008, Morano was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 38 years. Aftermath. The Sundown Motor Lodge replaced its manual locks with electronic keycards and began requiring valid ID for all